as they begin to realize sort of the impact of the storm. So the numbers have risen over the course of the day, but it's really at a point now where it's so dangerous to be outside that we hope people are just being safe where they are.
And Jan, I'm not sure exactly where you are, but obviously for Red Cross workers, you have to wait until conditions are safe for you guys to be able to mobilize out there on the ground.
Absolutely. We brought a lot of Red Cross volunteers in ahead of time because we knew that the storm was coming. We also have more that are waiting in staging areas that can arrive once the storm has passed. I'm in Arlington, Virginia, and feeling the same impacts that everyone else is. My power and internet went out about 3 hours ago. I've heard branches hit the roof over the course of the evening, and I understand what people are feeling right now with fear and concern for their homes and their families and their neighbors and loved ones.
And this is a huge storm here, having impacts well west towards the Great Lakes, south towards Tennessee and North Carolina, then northward through Maine. Do you have crews positioned in all those regions to respond to the aftermath of Sandy?
Well, the wonderful thing about the Red Cross is our volunteers are in those areas year-round. They're local volunteers. They're there to help. They have the training. They have the preparedness. They've identified the shelters. So as the storm moves to different locations and additional needs are identified, they're there and they're ready to go. And then we have tons of volunteers around the country who we can also bring in additional resources and additional people to supplement those areas if they need more assistance.
And Jana, before we let you go, obviously we have viewers in other parts of the country too who may want to be able to help out. How can they do that through the Red Cross?
They can go to redcross.org. Our two biggest needs right now are financial donations. This is going to be a long and difficult recovery and response operation. And secondly, we've had to cancel over 100 blood drives so far just today. So there's a great need for blood. So those who are in safe areas who are willing to come out and donate, go to redcross.org and you can figure out how to make a financial contribution or schedule a blood donation.
All right, that is Jana Sweeney from the American Red Cross. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Of course, we've got meteorologists out there in the field tonight. We're going to begin with Jim Cantori, who's live for us in the lower part of Manhattan, Battery Park City, New York.
A situation that we have not seen ever in southern New York here at Battery Park. Water has come up. You can see it already here in the park. There is debris here as well. There's been an all-time record surge here, and now throughout many of the streets in lower Manhattan, the water continues to rise. The good news is we're at the time of high tide, so we can check that off. That's done. The surge component seems to be holding off as well, and I can tell you we haven't seen much more rise in this water over the last 30 minutes or so. Let's hope that continues to be the case, but the problems are already many-fold. We've got power outages all over New York City right now. Good news is they shut down the power here in lower Manhattan, afraid that the water was going to come in, and that's exactly what has happened. We understand that there's 6 feet of water outside the plaza right now, 3 feet of water inside the plaza. There have been many water rescues, some of them by boat, in the streets of New York City. Can you believe that? And who would have ever thought, as we look out behind us here at the Battery, you can't really make out where Jersey City is. You can't really tell where the statue is. You don't know where Bayonne is. You don't know where Staten Island is or Brooklyn, because there's very, very little power tonight. We have had many, many power surges and flashes have resulted, obviously, in the transformers, and it just has been looking like the 4th of July in through here. So huge issues, guys, continue to unfold here in New York. Winds have shifted around. They're coming across the water now. Very, very gusty at times. This is the worst wind that we've had, at least for the moment. We're going to move out to the West End Highway. All right, we're going to change locations now, and we will come back with you live as soon as we get that done.
And we haven't gotten Jim's signal back yet again because it's so windy. It's hard to get a satellite signal, but we're trying to work on establishing contact with him over the next couple of minutes.
All right, in the meantime, we want to go to meteorologist Reynolds Wolf, who has the latest from Stonington, Connecticut.
Well, for all of you who happen to be tuning in on television and those of you tuning in online, the view from Stonington has really been interesting. We've seen a transformation of elements. We had earlier today dry conditions here. This is actually a parking lot behind us. We were doing live shots, and our sound technician and our photographer were actually underneath that blue awning you see just to the left of that building. And then we had the water that began to rise fairly quickly, started filling in the back half of this, and we had to evacuate very quickly. Still, if you take a look at this video, we actually went out and about much of the community, and you saw a variety of things. You saw trees that were knocked over, widespread power outages, and then right over in the north end of this peninsula, you had just some massive waves that were coming on shore, rambling up against the house. I mean, just a tremendous mess. Now, what we expect, as you come back to me for a second, is we're going to see conditions still very rough tomorrow. The wind was predominantly out of the north through a good part of the day, and certainly it's begun to subside a bit. But by tomorrow, we expect it to be just the opposite, to come in from the opposite direction. So that means we can see another round of heavy waves, a lot of surf coming through, and of course, there's the chance we'd see more power outages and more trees coming down with those strong gusts. That's the latest we've got for you. Let's send it back to you in the studio.
And once again, at last report, more than 4 million customers are without power at this hour.
4.1. Yeah, reporter Dave Malkoff is in the Washington, D.C. area and spoke with a family who got stuck in Sandy's path.
Hey, you guys, we are here in Old Town Alexandria where the sandbags are out. All the businesses are closed, all except for one. We found a restaurant here. You can see the sign. The name is Virtue. And this is where we found the server with the all too familiar name.
Hello, y'all.
Hi.
My name is Sandy.
Is your name really Sandy?
My name is really Sandy, and I'm wrecking havoc from what I understand.
This is the crowd that's left.
Is everything to your liking tonight?
Mix of locals
I think now we are officially the only people out here.
and out-of-towners who are suffering through Sandy.
Did y'all look around a lot? Or?
We did.
Not the waitress, the storm.
Here we go again. 1, 2, 3.
Originally from D.C., the Kenkel family now lives in London and picked the wrong time to visit.
DC this time of year is usually about 75, 80 degrees. Figure, why in the world did I need a coat? So, of course, left it at home. Now I'm soaking and paying for it.
This area is right on the Potomac.
You see this dark line here? I think that's the marking of high tide.
Old Town flooded out in Irene. It will flood for Sandy.
We stayed in Old Town. We stayed in Old Town last year as well for Hurricane Irene. But this seems to be a little bit worse.
I think my mom probably knew about the storm before we got here.
We're kind of used to this, actually.
The Kenkels are just one of thousands of vacationers in the D.C. area who will ride out this storm in a hotel.
We have generators, yeah. Generators and lots of generators.
But those generators will only last so long. Just ask Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it.
I think it's time to put the umbrellas down.
We'll be like Mary Poppins and fly off to London. Be cheap airfare back though, wouldn't it?
Oh, look at that mummy going back and forth on the news. Of course, this is Halloween time, a whole different kind of scary for kids up and down the East Coast. In Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, I'm Dave Malkoff, the Weather Channel.
All right, and we've dubbed this Superstorm Sandy because of its wide-reaching impacts. It's a huge storm, 1,000 miles wide, and you can see the impacts from New England all the way down to the snow in West Virginia. We're hearing of cars stranded in the snow, blizzard conditions there. There's a look at the radar showing the rain that is still quite heavy at times around the center of Sandy, which has moved inland across New Jersey, by the way. But at times, your rainfall is still going to be pretty heavy, and we're talking about several inches of rain. Still seeing some heavy rain on the south side of Washington, D.C., and look at that really heavy rain in the southwestern parts of Pennsylvania. Then you get into some of that thicker cold air across West Virginia where it's snowing in places like Elkins and Beckley, West Virginia. All right, here's the latest information we have as of 11 o'clock Eastern. Winds are still 75 miles an hour. We should be getting more information shortly. It is moving toward the northwest at 18 miles an hour. The center of Sandy, located about 10 miles southwest of Philadelphia. All the airports are closed, and you can see the path of Sandy as it continues to progress toward the west. Tomorrow morning, we're talking of winds still up there at 65 miles per hour, and then eventually turning toward the north over western New York State and then turning into Canada. As you can see, by the time we get into Thursday and Friday, of course, weakening as it does so. But we are going to be talking about some serious wind issues out there. This is where some of the gusts have been so far, and it's still very windy out there. Well, stay with us. Of course, we have much more on Hurricane Sandy. And if you want to make a Red Cross donation, you can text Red Cross to 90999 or just call the Red Cross.